Mick and Sam, taking you to Jungle Land. Bengals pride, it fills the air. Every week we're always there. Touchdowns, tackles, all the plays. Bengals roaring every way. Stories, news, and game recaps. Jungle Juice, we bridge those gaps. Welcome to the Jungle Juice. Mick and Sam, let's break it loose. Cincinnati, hear our call. Bengals fans, unite us all. Tracks and cheers and off-field chat. Orange and black, yeah, that's where it's at. Rivalries and victories, together we'll make history. Welcome to the Jungle Juice. Mick and Sam, let's break it loose. Cincinnati, hear our call. Bengals fans, unite us all. Stats and cheers and off-field chat. Orange and black, yeah, that's where it's at. Rivalries and victories, together we'll make history. Welcome to the Jungle Juice. Mick and Sam, let's break it loose. Cincinnati, hear our call. Bengals fans, unite us all.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Jungle Juice podcast. I'm Sam Gormley. He's Mick Nelson. Mick, how's it going?
What did I just watch?
We have had the same intro now for about a year, and it's not gone well over the last year. So you know what? I finally said it's time to switch it up. Yep. You know me, I am very superstitious, and what's been working has not been working. So we have to switch it up.
Now, I will say it was a great video. It might have been a little long.
It was.
How long of an intro was that?
It was about a minute 45.
Holy crap. Yeah, listen, we got to get that down to like...
It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, but hey, listen, Lisa's a fan.
Who's the band that sung it?
That is actually, it's Alex Schubert and Tommy Lipscomb. They are singing that song. Did you not know that? No, that's completely AI made. Completely AI generated.
That was beautiful. It was like I was listening to, I don't know.
Listen, it was, I was a fan personally, so there we go. That's our new intro, and we'll probably work with it a little bit. But we welcome you to the show today on Jungle Juice. We appreciate you for taking the time to join in. We're on your favorite podcasting platform. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and you can also follow us on Twitter as well. And today on the show, it's a fun show, right, Mick? Lots of fun to talk about after another tough one on Sunday in Cincinnati. We're going to be discussing that, previewing Sunday Night Football against the Giants, and we're going to have some bigger discussion points. And I saw Freddie come in here, and he mentions the Zach conservative take. We're going to discuss that a little bit later on in the show. And then with that, too, I think it's important for us to go and have a discussion, Mick, on reasons for optimism moving forward for this Bengals team and reasons for pessimism for this Bengals team. So I think that's an important discussion for us to have. But first, we do have to hit a couple of news headlines. The injuries for the Bengals. It was a tough day based on that as well on Sunday. Dax Hill and Jackson Kirkland, both out for the season now. Dax Hill, an ACL, Jackson Kirkland, a pec muscle. That hurts the depth of the offensive line, but we had the discussion, I think it was before the game, Mick, and it might have been during the game, that Dax Hill had been turning into playing really well at corner.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was probably the best corner on the team. That's not Mike Hilton, which... I don't know where Mike Hilton's in his own category. Dax Hill is the best outside corner on the team, I think, this season. You know, CTB has had such an up and down season where he's just made some absolutely amazing plays, and then he's just gotten absolutely toasted over the past couple of weeks. But Dax has just been kind of consistently good. He hasn't been, you know, a top corner in the league by any stretch of the imagination, but he's played pretty well. He has solid football over the past month, so it's sucks to see him, out for the season, and hopefully he's back and healthy coming into 2025.
Yeah, because he'd been playing really well. Now, I guess one of your semi-positives is one of your corners that had an ACL injury last year, DJ Ivey. They bring him back and return him to practice today. Now,
we brought in. Let's talk about the guy we brought in.
I was getting into it. But DJ Ivey's coming back, which is a good thing. They also signed Andrew Stuber to the active roster. Yes, he was a 7th-round pick by the Patriots in 2022. As 0 career snaps in the NFL. His last year at Michigan, he graded an 81.2 pass blocking grade, though, his senior year at Michigan. So at least that's good. And then a defense is bad. And it's real bad.
Oh, shut up.
And we have to go sign Marshall guys.
Shut up.
And you know what? He fits right in. Micah Abraham, they signed him to the practice squad. 18% career missed tackle rate in college. He fits right in, Mick. Exactly what we need. We're secondary guys that can't tackle.
There's also Donnie Abraham's son, so put some respect on that guy's name. Donnie Abraham was a dog. What did he play for? He played for the Falcons. I remember him being good. Donnie Abraham. Jets? I think he was a Jets guy. Or, I don't know. What the hell did I just read?
I don't know, but you have...
I just saw the word rectal. That was like the first word I saw on there. I was like, holy shit.
Does anything else need to really be made other than that? But
Mike Abraham's cool though, son of Donnie, like I already said. 6 interceptions in 2022. I don't know. You said what, 11 total?
12 in his career.
Okay. One of those interceptions was the upset against Notre Dame a couple years ago. I was at that game. If you guys don't know, I'm a fan of the Herd. That's my team. I've always been pissed that we haven't had enough Marshall guys join the Bengals. I think the last one was Darius Hodge. He didn't really play that much. Chris Crocker. What is Jeremy the only WKU guy that
No, I've got my sign.
The Bengals have had?
My sign. You've never seen my sign?
No, I don't really want to ever see it, but now I'm kind of curious.
See? Look, there's my Bengals sign of all of the Western Kentucky guys.
Anybody post 2000 here? See if I.
You don't remember Bengals legend Antoine Grant?
Nope.
He was a training camp guy.
Yeah, at least we had Chris Crocker. Chris Crocker actually played. I guess you had Jeremy. Jeremy. We had what's his name? Rogers Beckett. Do you know that name at all?
No, not at all. Not at all. But yeah, they did sign the Marshall guy. Will that mean anything? It's the practice squad, so I don't really know how much it actually means. But those are a couple of the headlines for us. I don't know how much more we can take of naming random Marshall players or random WKU players. Because, listen, shout out to Antoine Grant, Darius Brooks, and, of course, shout out to Jeremy Johnson, the best fullback in Bengals history. And my former next door neighbor.
Riley's here.
Oh, yes. He's been quite loud already today, which is to be expected, speaking of him. Bengals-Ravens on Sunday afternoon. Bengals lose by 3 points, 41-38 in overtime against the Baltimore Ravens. Mick, let's start positive. We'll go negative, and then we'll try and finish it off on a high note with some bigger discussions based on things that everyone is talking about, like the overtime play calling discussion, and then some looks ahead, as well as just some reasons for us to be optimistic about the way that the Bengals are headed and some reasons to be pessimistic about the way the Bengals were having. But as far as what we liked on Sunday, it has to start with the offense. I mean, listen, if you score 38 points in an and I should have gone back and looked at this stat, the last time in an AFC North game that a team lost when scoring 38 points, you'd have to probably go back maybe to Bengals-Browns in that stretch. Yeah, Bengals-Browns. That's probably the last time you'd have to look at that. But, I mean, Joe Burrow, 30 of 39, 392 yards, 5 touchdowns, and really made the one mistake on the interception, which he took blame for, but also Jamar Chase took blame for on the play as well. But we mentioned Burrow I mean, Chase had one of his best games as a Bengal. And then T. Higgins got overshadowed by Jamar Chase, but played really, really well as well.
Yeah. Just to start off with Burrow, I think you already mentioned the stats. 3 big-time throws that I saw. Average depth of target, 8.5 yards. It was a great Joe Burrow game. It was the 7th highest graded game of his career. And I think it probably would have been number 1 if it weren't for the pick. So, I mean, that's how good of a game Joe Burrow played. And he needed to play that way, like he said he did, because of how lethal the Ravens offense was and is. I mean, we'll get into how bad the defense was later, but Burrow played really, really, really good. Great game. Probably, I think, his best game of the season so far. Like you said, Jamar, incredible again. 10 receptions and 12 targets, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had one of the best catch and run touchdowns I've ever seen. And I feel like I've said that about Jamar Chase a few times now. I mean, he's had just crazy catch and run touchdowns just his entire career. It's been nuts.
To me, the biggest thing about that too is the Ravens secondary is not necessarily elite, but it's not bad by any stretch, which makes that catch and run even more impressive. Because I mean, they have a good corner in Marlon Humphrey, and they have maybe the most. And we had this conversation. The safety that doesn't get enough credit of being a really, really good safety in Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, I think he gets plenty of credit, but yeah, he's really freaking good.
He's just really good.
But yeah, and then T. I mean, this was T's best graded game since his 2022 game against the Steelers, where he, I think, almost got to like 200 yards or maybe got to 150 yards, had a touchdown or two. Just it was a crazy game. He had that game, and this was his best game since then. Caught 9 balls for 83 yards on 13 targets. Had 2 touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, I think the receiving unit's pretty much back. And I think this is probably a step in the right direction for them for sure.
Alex Schubert asks, "Is this WLW?" They would hate us on there, Alex. They would hate us on there. There's no question about that.
What's WLW?
700 WLW, home of the Reds.
Oh,
that's AM talk radio. Listen, other than the offense, I mean, we could sit here and just keep on talking about the Burrow, Chase, Higgins. The offensive line I thought was good. I don't think they were great by any stretch, but they were good.
They were okay.
Yeah,
I think we gave up 11 pressures, which isn't a crazy amount. Orlando Brown Jr. looked great again. 84 pass block grade, 0 pressures given up. The other 11 pressures were pretty evenly distributed out through the rest of the offensive line. I mean, they didn't look disastrous, but I mean, we thought that they would probably have a downtick in their play after playing the Commanders and the Panthers, 2 pass rush units that aren't very good, and you're going up against the Ravens, who have had a resurgence in Kyle Van Noy, and then Odafe Owe has been
and Matabike too.
Really well, and Matabike, who really showed up against us on Sunday.
I want to bring up a name here too that I think played a really solid game on Sunday, and Josh kind of leads right into it as well to switch, because the defense. A lot of the defense, you look at this and it was really bad, but there were actually some things that you can take away and say, hey, for one, Dennis asks, what do you think I would like to trade for Mike Zimmer as defensive coordinator? You want a defense that's worse off than the Bengals right now? Go look at the Cowboys.
Yeah, the worst graded defense in football. But I will say they have had a lot. I didn't know the injuries they've sustained in Dallas, and so
have the Bengals. The Bengals have been beat up on defense. Now, we can talk a little bit later on whether that is hope or false hope later on. But Sam Hubbard, he had been criticized a lot through the first couple of games of the season. And you know what? For good reason. He had a good game on Sunday.
He had a good run defense game.
Yes. Well, I mean, he had a sack and a safety. Now, Lamar made him look silly a couple times, but hey, Lamar does that to a lot of really, really good players. But he also had a safety against Derrick Henry in the end zone, and that means something. And I think just considering that my expectations for Sam Hubbard were extremely, extremely low, he performed his best game of the season. Now, again, that's a low bar, but at least I was optimistic and hoping that maybe him getting less snaps is a reason to him being more successful.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. The pass rush stats, I know he had the sack. He had a below 10% pass rush win rate.
No,
That's not going to get it done. The run defense was really good, though. He had 3 run stops. Again, the safety looks great. I mean, that's what we need Sam Hubbard to do. That's where you should be kind of switching out Hubbard and Murphy. You're maybe showing some run personnel, by bringing Sam Hubbard out there and Miles Murphy for pass rush personnel. But, I mean, if one's good at one and the other's good at the other, just do it. I mean,
you mentioned the run defense, though, and really the run defense was not bad. I mean, Mick, if I would have told you that if you take away that Derrick Henry run on the last drive in overtime, when at that point the game was pretty much over, I mean, and I know you can't really take that off, but I would have told you that if Baltimore would have gone 33 carries for 124 yards, 3.7 yards a carry, you'd have probably said, I take that. 3.7 yards per carry for the Ravens. So, I mean, listen, if you add in that Derrick Henry run, it was over 5 yards a carry, which can show where that stat can be a little misleading. So for a lot of the game, the run defense wasn't bad, which was surprising.
Yeah. And I mean, that run at the end, I think that was just
fatigue, annoyance.
I think the team probably just gave up after the missed field goal. I mean, that's, and then also Derrick Henry was the guy running the ball.
But other than that play, they did a really good job against Derrick Henry pretty much all day.
Yeah, they didn't look too bad. Like I said, they had, what was this, their best graded run defense game of the season?
I honestly don't have that stat in front of me, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was. I can try and find it out here while we're talking.
It was their second worst, actually.
Really?
We won't talk about that, but yeah.
Well, hey, facts are optional, right?
But it's also a robust rushing attack that the Ravens
Correct.
had. Derrick Henry coming in was averaging 6 yards a carry. So we actually knocked that average down, I think.
Yes. Yeah, it had to be. And if you would have taken out the 51-yard, which I know you can't, it would have been even better. Are there any other positives? Should we just go ahead and get negative?
Yeah, let's just get negative.
For one, I want to start off here, and I saw Lisa. She made the comment earlier, and I'd have to scroll back and find it. It came out earlier today. Mike Hilton told the media that we had a players-only meeting this week. Players only. It's a players-only meeting. Does that mean anything to you?
Couldn't do that 2 weeks ago?
For the defense. Players only.
Yeah, they couldn't do it 2 weeks ago.
I always just find it funny when that comes out.
You needed 2 disastrous performances, actually 3, because the Panthers' performance still wasn't that great. To finally put one together.
It just is funny to me that it happened. Okay, for the defense specifically. Where do we start? Where should we start, Nick?
Another positive real quick. Black jerseys and orange pants are a good combo. There was a lot of symmetry with the uniforms on Sunday, which I really liked. It was great.
They looked better than I thought they were. My expectations were very low for those, and I admitted that. And I liked them. I thought they were better. As far as the defense, though, let's go. Let's start with missed tackles. How about that? And I know you mentioned the point last week, and I find it very interesting. You said the hip drop tackle. How much of an impact does that have? But they had 15 missed tackles.
How many of those were forced by Lamar? Do we know?
That I don't know. I don't think we can
find. I do not think we can find that at PFF.
Geno Stone, though, 4 of them. Missed tackle percentage of 40%. 40%, Nick. We knew he was bad. But is he like 40% bad? And I get it. Like how much that was against Lamar, and Lamar can make a lot of really good tacklers look that way. Derrick Henry can make a lot of tacklers look that way. But the missed tackles continue to be a problem. And I wish I had an answer. And honestly, I wish somebody would ask Lou Anarumo the question that you brought up last week, Mick, of how much of this is we can't tackle and how much of this is we can't tackle in today's NFL.
I still think it's the latter. I mean, it's just across the board, tackling's been down across the league. It's not just us. I mean, we're looking pretty bad. I mean, we're on the bad end of it, but I mean, I think it's down league wide. I mean, I don't think it's much of a coincidence there.
Yeah, and it was atrocious on Sunday. Pass rush, you touched on it a little bit. You mentioned that in your eyes, one of the biggest keys for the Bengals to defeat the Ravens was to get consistent pressure on Lamar. I know you had the stat last week of, was it his PFF grade or his QBR or
I mean,
something when pressured? It was a drastic difference, though.
Yeah.
Now, there are problems with rushing Lamar because if you don't get him, he does what happened on Sunday and have a couple of havoc plays where he beats you because the secondary can only hold up for so long.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the secondary's fault if they're having to cover for 10 to 15 seconds because Lamar's running around like a madman back there because the defensive line cannot finish. And they did not finish enough on Sunday.
Yeah. Case in point, who did he throw to when he was rolling out? Like he had kind of like the Joe Burrow to Tyler Boyd touchdown against the Raiders. I can't remember who caught that.
Was it Kolar?
It might have been Kolar. Yeah, it was. It was Charlie Kolar. Yeah. I mean, the case in point, a play like that essentially like occurring. I mean, I think Lamar makes a lot of defenses look like that, I guess. But, I mean, yeah, it's not going to get it done.
Coverage as well. Now, I just mentioned part of the reason where you can say, hey, maybe it's not as bad because the pass rush, because this is a collective unit. But, I mean, Cam Taylor-Britt had another rough game. 5 for 91 against him. Jermaine Pratt, 4 for 32. DJ Turner, 3 for 56. Geno Stone, 7 catches allowed for 59 yards. You know, Mick, we talked about it last week that said that, you know, Geno Stone, is he good against the run? No. Can he tackle? No. What's he good at? Or what is he supposed to be good at is at least coverage. Like, but he allows 7 catches for 59 yards.
Yeah.
The coverage was the reason they lost the game.
There might be a reason why he only signed a 2-year contract for $15 million, by the way.
I looked, and the Bengals have pretty much an out.
After this season.
I was looking at the number, while you talk, I'll find it, last night, because I was curious. And I think it would be maybe $1.5 million of dead money for the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't want to be too early to say this, but he might just be the product of Mike McDonald when he's your defense coordinator and he's running his schemes out there. I mean, because he looked really good in coverage for the Ravens last year and just does not look he's not living up to the billing that he thought we would be coming into this season.
They would save 6.5 against the cap and it'd be $1.5 million of dead money, which is not like a huge savings in either way. But, you know, if it continues in this stretch, something's going to have to change. And that safety room has not been the same since Jesse Bates. And I know we had the discussion, and I admit that I was wrong. I thought it was, in the long run, the right decision to let Jesse Bates walk. Hindsight, I don't know.
Well, you thought Lou would have figured out, the defensive back room by now. I mean, that's been his skill set his entire career. As a defensive coach has been the secondary. And, we've drafted guys to take over those roles in the early rounds. He drafted Dax Hill, who, to his credit, has looked pretty good so far this season. I don't know what the hell happened to Cam Taylor-Britt.
I think he's trying.
What the hell happened to him?
I really think Cam Taylor-Britt is trying too hard to be cornerback 1 when he needs to just be worrying about being Cam Taylor-Britt.
I guess. I don't know. He was CB1 last year. And, you can say it was Cheeto Bayawuzie. I don't think it really was.
And maybe that's it, too, is that Cheeto took some of the pressure off of him.
Maybe.
But at the same time, Bud, welcome to the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to figure it out. DJ Turner has been up and down. You know, he's had some really good games. He's had some really bad games and stretches. But yeah, I think you're exactly right there.
Yeah. DJ Turner, like you said, wasn't great either. Three receptions, 56 yards on 4 targets. Mostly covering Zay Flowers during the game. Riley mentioned earlier, Josh Newton looked pretty good. I don't have robust statistics to give you, but it did have
He
a
didn't have many
69 coverage
snaps.
grade.
He didn't have many snaps.
But it seems like he was taking over that nickelback role once Dax got hurt, which may be a sign for the future of this team because I think Mike Hilton's out after this season.
He is a free agent after this season. Mike Hilton is, and he will be 30, which traditionally the Bengals do not like to sign guys past 30, but at the same time, who knows if they'll be able to necessarily afford to not serve it. But I mean, Steve Foster, he writes in and says, he has a good point here. He says, your DBs are going to get burnt when they have to come up to defend the run, and there is zero pass rush. Yeah. There is a little bit of truth to that.
No, they've been selling out to stop the run all season. It's hurt their coverage terribly.
The Lou Anarumo discussion is an interesting one, though, Mick. And I think we can kind of lead into this as the biggest thing is that how do I want to word this? Is like, how much of a hot seat is Lou Anarumo on, and how much of a hot seat should Lou Anarumo be on right now?
I don't think he's on much one just because I think Zach's shown loyalty to his guys. I mean, pretty much his whole career, we have not seen a lot of positional coach turnarounds on this team over the past 5 years. Lou's been here all five.
Shout out to Jim Turner.
Yeah, Jim Turner's out. That's good. But yeah, I mean, I think Lou should be on a hot seat right now. You've not figured out this defense. And to be fair, I mean, this past offseason wasn't great for him. You lost your best defensive player in DJ Reader to the Detroit Lions. You have not effectively filled that position. I know you signed Sheldon Rankins, but he hasn't been on the field. And you got to give Lou, I guess, a little bit of a break because of the injuries. But I don't think that's any excuse for the coverage unit to look bad. Now, there is a point to be had that the Bengals have played against two top 5 offenses in both of the games where they've looked absolutely horrendous, which were the Ravens game and the Commanders game. So that might be a sign for positive things to come in future weeks.
The other big takeaway from that game was in overtime. And I know that there was somebody in our section that was very, very upset about this. He started yelling Packers, and I'm not naming any names, but it wasn't our buddy who I wanted to give the Brad Robbins jersey to. It was you, Mick. And again, and you were very much not alone in that scenario. Zach Taylor after the game spoke, and again, if you didn't watch the games, Bengals got the ball after the turnover. Where they got the ball would have been, about a 55-yard field goal, give or take, something like that. They ran the ball 3 straight times. Now, allegedly, one of those 3 plays, Burrow checked into a run. Now, believe that if you want. But Zach Taylor explained his thought process as this. And you can agree with it or you can disagree with it, but this is at least setting it up. For one, he knew a sack took them out of field goal range and a hold took them out of field goal range. And that was kind of his thought process for it, was in it, is that he knows that Evan McPherson, from that point, I think he had not missed in the last year and a half in the fourth quarter or overtime. He had not missed. And also, it's kind of one of these things is that Ryan Rico, who is a new holder, clearly got the yips in that moment. Now, was it a great snap from Cal Adamitis?
It was not a good snap.
It was not a great snap, but it was not a Brad St. Louis snap.
No.
It was a snap that an NFL holder should have easily been able to place down and do something with. So that's kind of the thing is would that have been the same if it was a 35-yard field goal? And then McPherson probably still misses it because he was kicking the ball sideways.
I don't know. You shouldn't be in that position to begin with. You shouldn't be. I mean, you shouldn't. I know that Joe checked out of a run or whatever, but I think James Rapine probably said it best. Is there much of a difference in how you feel between a 55-yard field goal and a 60-yard field goal? I mean, I'm feeling pretty iffy on both of those, right? I mean, I don't have the stats for McPherson, but I mean, it's not like he's just kicking 50 plus field goals with regularity and making them. So, and Riley, says it pretty well here. I mean, you have a quarterback that you're paying a ton of money to, who has been on a heater for pretty much the entire game. And you cannot play conservative. I mean, you said, Zach Taylor said after the Niners game, I think it was more the Niners game than the Packers game that I was really thinking of in 2021. Because the exact same thing happened in overtime against the Niners. And Zach was pretty much said, I will never do that again. Which, to his credit, he hadn't done that for 3 years, nor was he really in a position to ever, for that to ever really come up since then, I don't think. I mean, when was the last time they played overtime? Chiefs game? Chiefs AFC Championship, the one that we won.
Keep talking, because I think there was one last year. Yeah, one Vikings overtime last year.
I didn't think that was. I thought that ended. Oh, maybe that was overtime last year.
I'm gonna while you're talking, I will look it up and see if I can't figure it out, because I'm pretty sure that it was Vikings. Jags were both overtime last year.
Okay. Well, to his credit, the past couple of years he hadn't done that. I mean, he was more conservative or more aggressive with his play calling. So I don't know what happened in this one, but you're going up against an offense that's completely torched you for an entire game, where you guys gave up a 10-point lead with single-digit minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Like, go and win the football game. A 53-yard field goal isn't a given.
No. And Steve asks this question here too. He says, do you think Burrow constantly wanting to be in the shotgun, that keeps us from upgrading at running back? Or is it just because Mike Brown is broke in comparison to other owners when it comes to guaranteed money, which is what big name players want in their deals? I don't think it's the latter. I don't think it's really either.
I don't think it's either one. I think the running back is a position that you shouldn't be paying a lot of money to. If you have a quarterback you are paying $55 million a year to. So what do you need to do with your running back position? You need to just fill it up every 4 years through the draft. Exactly.
And the Bengals, I think, have done a really good job with that with Chase Brown. Like, I think they found a guy that can be solid into filling that role. And I think you find a Zach Moss every couple of years too, maybe. You find a guy who's costing you what, $5 mil? Is that what Zach, $6 mil?
I thought Zach was like 3.
Yeah, okay. He's not making much. I had the stats up in front of me from over the cap. I could have kept that up, but regardless, they're not paying Zach Moss a lot of money at all. Like $3 million. Yeah, so $3 million. You're going to see, I think, that money with it as well. Do you have any other negatives, or do you kind of want to jump into some reasons for optimism or pessimism moving forward for this Bengals team?
The only other negative, I didn't think the run offense looks very good, which maybe I think there's 2 reasons for that. One, the Ravens' run defense is really good, and we've seen the run offense, play really well over the past couple of weeks against, pretty subpar defenses in the Commanders and the Panthers. So you're going up against a better matchup against the Ravens, and the run offense kind of came back down to earth a little bit. And then also Burrow was just kind of on a heater for the entire game. So why really run the ball that much when Burrow's just doing Joe Burrow things? So that's the only other negative that I had.
Bengals sit at 1-4 right now. And we can look at the stats. 1-4 teams to make the playoffs. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. Let's start off being pessimistic, Mick. Let's say, and then we'll finish high before riding into the Giants, because I think that's probably a good way for us to do it. Reasons for pessimism. I know you like this. PFF does this as well. For the Bengals moving forward, sitting at 1-4, and I think it really surrounds one thing, or one collective, and that is that the defense is just bad.
Yeah, I mean it's hurt. I mean it's hurt.
You lost your best coverage guy for the year.
Yeah. Yep, you've lost Dax for the year. Hopefully Trey gets back to looking like he looked in week 2 against the Chiefs, because he has not looked like himself over the past 3 weeks. I know he had 7 pressures in the game, but I mean, none of those really amounted to anything. But you haven't had any other really source of pass rush. You're hoping BJ Hill probably, plays a little bit better. And he wasn't awful in the game against the Ravens. He was
I
actually
believe he was the highest. Yeah, he's the highest graded player,
highest
wasn't he?
graded pass rusher.
Which kind of says how bad the pass rush was.
Yeah. Miles Murphy was terrible. I know he had 4 pressures, but he only had 1 pass rush win, which is crazy. So yeah, reasons for pessimism is that the defensive line is thin. Even if you have guys back, they're still playing somewhat injured. I can't imagine that they're 100%. And then you lost your best coverage guy in Dax Hill.
Not counting Mike Hilton. Not counting Mike Hilton. Yeah.
Yeah, not counting Mike. So yeah, it's been bad, but I guess the reason for optimism is that these offenses are about to play for the rest of the season aren't the Ravens and aren't the Commanders right now.
Yeah, and I think for me, that's the exact point is reasons for optimism. And I kind of, when I was thinking about this, I had a deja vu moment to a conversation that me, you, and Tommy had on our podcast on a very dark Friday night, almost a year ago. Remember, we did an emergency podcast. It was a very dark evening. And it was a little depressing. And it was right after we found out that Joe Burrow was out for the season. And I think I asked the same question is let's be an optimist, let's be a pessimist. And I just took the optimistic view out of it and said, at that point, the Bengals were running into playing some teams with backup quarterbacks was the way that I went into it, of just saying there were wins there. And there were. And Jake Browning ended up doing it. They ended up not making the playoffs, but still finished 9-8. We could argue whether they should have just tanked and had a top 10 pick and gotten one of these, Joe Alt or something on the offensive line, but still, that's a discussion for another day. But you're looking at your next 4 opponents: Giants, Browns, Eagles, Raiders. I think an argument could be made that you are better than all 4 of those teams. Eagles is maybe the one that you might not say, but that one's at home. Now, again, home hasn't meant jack all season, but still. So you're saying to me, you win those next 4 games, you're 5-4 going into Baltimore. Do you want to be 5-4? No. But that is at least a doable stretch to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't say the season's over by any means. I mean, I think somebody brought it up. They have like the easiest schedule remaining out of all 32 teams, or the second easiest schedule remaining. And there are a lot of wins. I mean, you already mentioned their first 4 weeks. I mean, the other games, I mean, you have to play the Ravens again, which are, they might be the best team in football right now. Chargers are beatable. Steelers are beatable. I mean, all these teams are beatable. Cowboys, Titans, Broncos, Steelers twice.
Browns again at home. I mean, There is not a team on the schedule for the rest of the year other than maybe at Baltimore, but you also just saw they just went toe-to-toe with them and should have beaten them. Other than at Baltimore, there is not a game on the schedule that makes you go, oh, crap. Oh, crap. And that at least should give you. But then also, here's a stat for you, Mick. We've talked about it a lot. Joe Burrow is playing at an elite level. An elite level.
He should be an MVP candidate.
He absolutely should be. So teams to finish with a passing grade over 80 for the season over the last 5 years and finish under 500. So do you know how many teams? So there have been 54 total teams in the last 5 seasons, so 2018 to 2023, that finish with a passing PFF grade above 80. Of those 54, how many finished under 500?
I'm going to go with 1.
8.
8.
So, I mean, it's a little higher percentage than that, but you're looking at no one last year. Saints in 2022, Vikings in 2021, Texans, Falcons, Vikings in 20, Raiders in 19, and Packers and Falcons in 2018. So that's saying that if you have a quarterback who is playing at an elite level, more times than not, he's going to find a way to make the playoffs. And if Joe Burrow stays healthy, that is at least a room for optimism here. Steve writes in and says, if they lose this week, they better start shopping Higgins and get something while his value would potentially be at a peak to a contender. This was a conversation we had walking out of the stadium on Sunday, Mick. And I don't know if a loss on Sunday is what leads them to that, but if it compounds and we're sitting talking about this in 3 weeks, it might be something that they'll really have to discuss.
Yeah.
Really,
you got to start turning over this roster at some point. So if the season's over in the next 3-4 weeks, you got to start offloading. I mean, T's going to have a lot of demand with wide receiver needy teams that are looking to make playoff pushes. I'm hoping the Chiefs wouldn't be that team, but they're one of those teams.
I did see Mo Egger on Twitter today. He had the question: would you trade T. Higgins to the Chiefs for a first-round pick or any other team, but it would be a 7th-round pick?
A 7th?
Yeah.
Like, that's a stupid question.
It is. It obviously it was. T. Higgins makes the Chiefs even closer to potentially three-peating. But still, yeah, no, I'm taking a first-round pick from the Chiefs without question for that. Riley writes in, his optimism, the D-line is hopefully reinforced with the guys back. Jenkins looks good. McKinley has a chance to rotate in. BJ is looking back to himself. And that's kind of the biggest thing with that is that the other aspect that I wanted to is can the defense really be that much worse?
No. And I mean, the Ravens are going to make defenses look like that. I mean, they're a pretty darn good offense.
So that's the hope moving forward. On Sunday Night Football, though, the Cincinnati Bengals will travel to the New York Giants because I'm sure America wants nothing more than to have their Sunday, get ready for a busy work week with Bengals at Giants on Sunday Night Football. Again, a game I don't understand why it was in primetime to begin with. Mick. Lisa's telling Mo you said his question was stupid. Your Mo bromance lasted 2 weeks.
Well, I think it'd have been a more valid conversation, like say a Chiefs first or another team's like second or third.
Uh-huh.
But also, I would take the Chiefs first every time.
Yes,
like I don't care who gets the pick. I want the best result.
I think it was more of a tongue-in-cheek question that he was doing it. But the Giants are the next opponents on the schedule for the Cincinnati Bengals. Giants offense, Mick. Big thing that we need to discuss with this is Malik Neighbors did not play last week with a concussion and did not practice today. If he does not play on Sunday, my feeling is a lot better because you take him out of that offense and you've got Wan'Dale Robinson.
Are you gonna trash talk your boy?
No, I'm gonna say that's it. That's all you got. I'm not gonna trash talk Wan'Dale Robinson. Go Cats. And he's a Kentuckian, Mick.
Where did he go to high school?
Western Hills. Yes, Western Hills in Frankfurt.
Okay.
If you're bored, look up his high school like tape. Wow. Just cooking teams. Teams.
Well, you bring up a good point. If Neighbors is out, that's a big headache. That kind of goes away, especially for a coverage unit that's trying to figure out how to replace Dax Hill. So I mean, that's I don't want to wish injury or wish for anybody to stay hurt or anything like that if they're not. But Neighbors has been absolutely amazing so far this season. I mean, he has 35 receptions, 386 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's just in 4 weeks. So he's on pace for 140 receptions, 1,500 yards, and 12 touchdowns.
With Daniel Jones as quarterback. And again, we talked off air about this, that Daniel Jones really has not been bad. But this is not with an elite quarterback that he's playing as well as he is.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we both agreed in the draft talk that we had that Malik Neighbors is the best wide receiver in this draft.
There is a discussion to be had that all Daniel Jones maybe needed was an elite wide receiver. Yeah. Which he's never had, to his credit. He's never had one of those. Who's he had? Sterling Shepard? Darius Slayton?
Darius Slayton's still there.
He's not terrible.
He's not a guy. What about the guy that Bengals fan that said he was coming to the Bengals and then went to the Giants? What's his name?
Kenny Golladay.
Thank you, Kenny Golladay.
He didn't say he was going to the Bengals. The Bengals just made an offer to him.
That's right. Yeah, and thank goodness he did this. Riley writes in and says, "Danny Dimes is elite. I will stand by it." You can stand by that take if you want, Riley. I don't think I'm going to be dropping an elite tag on Daniel Jones. But this offense, running-wise, is really a non-factor. They're not a great running team. Kevin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy.
Now, Tyrone Tracy has not been bad.
No.
It's been all right. 5.3 yards per carry, 70 rushing grade. That's not terrible. Now, I think there might be a discussion that he might be the feature back at some point in the season for the Giants going forward. Is that going to be in week 6 against the Bengals? I don't know. Maybe. Probably not.
Now, on the other side of the ball, this Giants defense is solid, especially up front. I mean, this defensive line, is it one of the best defensive lines in football?
It's up there. I mean, I think it's
top 5.
I think PFF has it rated as the 10th best pass rushing unit. So that's not bad. It's pretty
Dexter
good.
Lawrence, 7 sacks. They have Brian Burns. And then
I'd love to
Kayvon
have a
Thibodeau.
Dexter Lawrence on my squad right now.
Wouldn't we all? Now, I saw Lisa mention it as well, but Kayvon Thibodeau, who is a solid pass rusher, he's probably not lived up to the hype of being a first-round pick. He will not play on Sunday after having wrist surgery, so he's week to week. So the defensive line. Now, if you want a positive to this Giants defense, is the secondary is not great. It's not awful, but it's not great by any stretch. 110 QBR against. They have the cornerback out of Maryland, Deontay Banks. They have what? Not a Deontay Banks guy?
No, I'm talking about that.
Would you take Dexter Lawrence for T. Higgins?
Yeah, I would take that. The Giants would never take that.
Yeah, they would laugh at your face. They would laugh in your face and say absolutely not. But then they also got another Kentucky guy, Andrew Phillips, who has been pretty solid for them as a corner.
Has he been the slot guy?
Yes.
Has that been Andrew Phillips' role?
Yes.
He's graded pretty well. He's like in the high 70s right now.
But the secondary is something that Joe Burrow should be able to exploit if the offensive line can give him time.
Yeah. I think the defense is beatable, like you said. I don't know if the Giants have gone up against an elite offense so far this season. I mean, they've gone up against the Vikings, who had a decent offense for the first 4 weeks of the season, but it's kind of going on a downturn right now. Who else do you play? The Seahawks. They've got a pretty mid offense. I guess they did play the Commanders, but that was also week 2 of Jaden Daniels.
Browns and Cowboys.
Cowboys. I don't know how the Cowboys are 3-2 right now. Or are they 4-1? 3-2. I don't know.
Cowboys are a weird team. That's a weird team.
I don't get how they have an above 500 record. They have not looked that good this season.
I see here too, and Dennis writes in, and he brings up a point that I did want to mention too, Mick. I've seen a lot of Bill Belichick love. And Mick, if you want to call me an idiot for this, go for it. I don't want Bill Belichick as an ex-Bengals head coach. For one, like he's over 70. Is he one of the greatest head coaches in NFL history? Absolutely. But you look at his last couple of years in New England, and you want that? And also, the biggest thing with Bill Belichick is that he is going to want more control than the Brown family would ever consider giving him. I don't want Bill Belichick as the next head coach of the Bengals. I would rather take Zach Taylor.
Yes. I mean, I would too. I mean, who's been the better coach over the past 5 years? Probably Zach. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want Bill. I mean, if I wanted Zach fired, I would not be going after Bill Belichick. You should be going off after, whatever the hottest offensive mind in football is. I mean, in that case, like Clint Kubiak or a Bobby Slowick or a Ben Johnson or whoever. You're not going after
Jim Bob.
No, Jim Bob is not. Is he even in the league?
No, I just remember. I think when Zach Taylor was
Jim Bob Taylor was
hired, it was your dude.
I think this was the year before Zach Taylor was hired. This was
you were on the Jim Bob train.
Yeah. I don't even know if
Absolutely.
he's in the league anymore.
No, I don't think if he is, he's like an analyst somewhere. Jim Bob Cooter. Let's see where old Jim Bob is.
Oh, he's the offensive coordinator for the Colts.
I just saw that. Interesting. Well, good for him. Glad old Jim Bob is. So you can get Jim Bob if you want, Mick. You want him back?
I don't think he's a bad coach.
I just find it. I always just loved the name too of old Jim Bob. Okay. Anything else we need, or any other Giants points that you want to make as we move forward here?
No, not really.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a winnable game for this Bengals team, and that's kind of the next point that I wanted to make before we jump into our picks. Lisa says she likes coaches with 2 first names. I think, is that the reason you liked him? Just because you wanted to coach Jim Bob because you're from West Virginia, and that
Also,
just
his
feels
last
like
name's funny.
that's the real reason. You just wanted a Cooter jersey.
Well, his name's
walk
Jim
around
Bob,
with it.
and his last name is Cooter. Like, that's a name. That is a name.
Dennis asks for Zach Taylor, what have you done for me lately? Honestly, Dennis, and I know I got some hate for this last year when I said this, that I think Zach Taylor should have gotten some Coach of the Love last year in the NFL.
Coach of the Love?
Coach of the Year, love. Coach of the Love. Coach of the Year, love last year. And if he would have made the playoffs, I think he should have been Coach of the Year. And D'Amico probably would have still beaten him, but the fact that he was able to keep that team together with Jake Browning, I thought was really, really impressive.
No, I think that was impressive as well.
So,
I mean,
as far as Dennis's question of what have you done for me lately, I looked at that last year. And then also, what's Zach Taylor's specialty, Mick?
Offense.
And what's been really damn good this year?
Offense. It's been pretty good.
So I just think that the fire Zach is stupidity. That's just my opinion. And I know you are much more pro fire Zach than I am, but that's because I am not on that train at all.
And
I'm also not a fire.
I'm also not pro fire Zach right now.
No.
Like I said, I give you 3 years to make the playoffs. If you can't do it in a 3-year stretch in a row, get out of here. Like, you can't do it. You can't do it.
Because what will happen this year is if the Bengals fail to make the playoffs, which percentage chance is more than like they won't. Is the front office will go to him and they'll say, okay, you get a chance to make some changes to your staff, aka you get a new defensive coordinator, you get 1 year to try and fix it. And if it doesn't work, then we got to go somewhere else.
Yeah. How many years does he have left on his contract? Do you know?
2, I think. 2 or 3, probably.
Okay.
But it just wants Zach with some eggs, Riley says. Appreciate that, James. Appreciate you tuning in every single week.
James.
Okay. Bengals Giants. Sunday Night Football on NBC. You've got your boy Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico on the call. Let's say it right now. Chris Collinsworth does not hate the Bengals. He does not hate the Bengals. I don't want to see one post on it, but I know I'm going to. He doesn't hate.
He's also the best color analyst in the NFL. My opinion.
Him and Herb Street. Herb Street, I think he is better in college, but I'm a big Herb Street guy. The referee on Sunday, Mick, are you ready?
Yep.
Carl Cheffers.
Oh yeah, I know that name.
Bengals record with Carl Cheffers? Not great, Bob. Not great. 5-12-1. Not great with Carl Cheffers. Now, again, he's been doing it a long time. There was a lot of bad for the Bengals. That's part of the reason why. Some notable games. Texans last season.
Oof.
Bills in the playoffs.
Hey.
The Washington tie in London. And then the Colts playoff game.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't watch that game.
What was his name that they had to play at the running back that they had to play at wide receiver? His name is now escaping me.
The Bengals had to play. They were so strapped to wide receiver. Yeah,
because literally all their wide receivers were hurt, so they had to play what's his name at running back.
They put Gio at wide receiver.
No. It was the white guy.
What? Brian Leonard.
Nope. This would be beforehand. So 2014 Bengals. Now I got to look at his name. His name is now escaping me. I can see his face.
Burkhead.
Rex Burkhead. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rex Burkhead. I had to play him at wide receiver that game because they literally had nobody else.
AJ was hurt.
Yes.
Were Sanu and Jones both hurt?
It was Burkhead.
Jones was definitely hurt.
They had one of them. I think it was one wide receiver and Rex Burkhead were like their wide receivers. And I think Tyler Eifert was hurt at that point.
Jermaine Gresham was your only other receiver there.
Yeah, I guess that was pre-Eifert, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't pre-Eifert.
No, I guess, Eifert was
in 14, right?
Yep.
13.
Yep, because 15 was Oblehi.
He's going to be one of those what could have been.
We're going in a dark hole here if we're talking about Rex Burkhead at wide receiver and Cedric Oblehi. Oh man, it is a dark hole right now. So Carl Cheffers 5-12-1. Again, I just like to throw that stat out there just because it's funny to me. 5-12-1. Make your pick, Mick. Can the Bengals defeat the Giants on Sunday? Oh, that's what I wanted to say beforehand. Before we make our pick. Paul Dehner Jr. always on his show talks about what he classifies as the must-win armband. And he says, because he hates the must-win tag that fans will drop in there. And he classifies it until you are eliminated or at the brink of elimination. You can only use must-win one time a season. Mick, is this must-win armband game for the Bengals?
Yeah. So is every game for the next month. Sorry, PDJ. You can use the must-win armband more than once. Okay. Really, we've had well, we have Commanders game was a must-win. Panthers game was a must-win. Yes. Yes, it was.
It's one of those discussions of, is it a actual must-win or is it a must-win?
Well, if that's the philosophy, then there's not a must-win game until you get knocked out of playoff contention.
And I think that's the question is at what point in the season do you get knocked out? And a loss today, I agree with you. I think you got to throw the must-win armband because 1-5, I don't think you're coming back from that.
No,
I don't even think you're coming back from 1-4.
That has been done before, though.
1-5?
Colts, 2018. Andrew Luck comeback season.
That's right. Shout out to Andrew Luck. So there we go. That's just all we need, is just to lose to the Giants. Will the Bengals beat the Giants, though, Mick?
I hope so. Yeah, I'll say they do.
What's the score?
24-20. Bengals win.
Lisa's telling on Paul to you too, Mick. You're just going to make enemies with all of the Bengals media.
How do you know all these guys?
when are you Lisa, if you tell Rapine on him next, then he's just going to make his threesome. And then if you drop in like Sam Monson and
I'll never bad talk Sam and Steve. Don't worry about those guys.
Steve Palazzolo.
I usually never back talk Mel, but I did think that question was a little you say tongue in cheek, so maybe it was tongue in cheek. It was a little ludicrous of a post. But we're gonna win.
Now, if you remember, Mick, when we did our game-by-game predictions, I said the Bengals would lose this game.
Oh, well.
But I'm changing my tune. You said 24-20, and that's really close to what I was thinking, but I'm going to say we're going to get a weird 23-21. 23-21, Bengals win. It's ugly. It's mucky. We're pulling our hair out, but they find a way to win in the end. And in all seriousness, I don't really care how it is. Dennis asks, can you be honest? Are the Bengals going to make the playoffs? Go with your head, don't go with your heart. Heart will lead you astray. Mick, are the Bengals going to make the playoffs?
I mean, probably not. I hope they do.
I'm going to say no. At this point, no. But I do think like 9-8. Something like that right now. To where we are still having hope come week before Christmas. I think we're seeing something like that. And it could be one of those stretches that when they hit that weird 3 games in 10 days might tell the difference of the season. I think we're going to see some turns in these next 8 weeks or so, but I think that that's going to be big. Any other final takes with it?
No, if you're making the trip to New York, have a safe trip. Hope you have a good time over there. Yeah, I guess really New Jersey.
Yeah, I was gonna say
is
enjoy
where the
New Jersey.
team is. Yeah. Enjoy East Rutherford and all of the wonderful things they have to provide. Question mark. But yeah, hope you have a good time at the game. I'll be definitely watching on Sunday night. And I want to say there's a little bit of fallacy on your part because you say, people that are ending the work week want to watch, don't want to watch the Bengals Giants game on Sunday Night Football. And they usually prefer that to be the case because all of them like to go to bed early.
This is true. This
You know
is true.
You know how many people I work with complain like, "Oh, I'm so pissed off at another primetime game because I have to, stay up late or I don't get to watch all of it because I go to bed early and I'm a responsible adult."
You know who are not responsible adults, Mick? Us. We are not responsible adults because we will be up, and if they win, we're going to be happy and not be able to sleep, and if they lose, we're going to be mad and not be able to sleep. So that's just inevitable. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. How's the new dog? Mick's got a new dog.
Good. Yeah, we got a new dog. We got a fostering to adopt. I don't know where she's at. She's in the bedroom with my wife, with Sam. So, yeah, she's doing pretty good.
I like it. We'll see you next week on next week's edition of Jungle Juice. We'll be back hopefully discussing a big Bengals win against the Giants. Remember to follow us on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages. We're also on your favorite podcasting platform, Spotify, iTunes as well. So that'll wrap us up for this week's edition of Jungle Juice. Mick, fingers crossed, and hopefully the song brought us good luck to get a Bengals win.
Fingers crossed. Maybe it did. But fingers crossed, and Hoo Day. Thanks for watching, guys.